Mira lived in the small settlement of Luma, a colony on a faraway planet where the sky burned with shades of orange and red. The colony was surrounded by jagged mountains and dusty plains that stretched for miles. Life here was difficult. Water was scarce, crops were slow to grow, and machines often broke down. People survived day by day, always worried about what the next sunrise would bring. Mira had grown up watching her neighbors struggle. They collected whatever scraps they could find, repaired broken machines with old parts, and argued over the smallest resources. Mira, however, had always been different. She did not just see the present. She imagined what the future could be. While others focused on surviving, she spent her time watching the skies, dreaming of what humanity could achieve if they had the right tools and knowledge. She read old manuals about flying machines and energy sources, even though most of the information was outdated. Her friends and family called her ideas foolish. They said she was wasting her time dreaming instead of working for survival. But Mira did not care. She believed in the impossible. One morning, the marketplace was bustling with activity. Traders called out their wares, carrying metals, food, and rare minerals. Mira walked past the stalls, scanning everything with careful eyes. Then, in a quiet corner of the marketplace, she saw it. A rusty helicopter sat on a pile of broken engines and metal scraps. Its paint was faded, its blades bent, and parts of it were missing. To anyone else, it was junk. No one even glanced at it. But Mira felt a spark of excitement. She approached the owner, an old man named Rilo, who had been selling broken machines for decades. "This is useless," Rilo said. "It has no power, no fuel, no future. Why would you want it?" Mira smiled. "I see something you do not," she said. "I can make it useful. I can make it more than just a machine." Rilo laughed. "More than a machine? You are trading all your supplies for this? Food, tools, everything you own?" Mira nodded. "Everything," she said. "I will find a way to make it work." The marketplace fell silent. People whispered behind her back. Trading everything for a broken helicopter seemed insane. Mira's neighbors shook their heads. Her closest friend Lena approached her with concern. "Mira, are you really going to do this? You have nothing left after this trade. How will you survive?" Mira looked at Lena with calm eyes. "I have my mind, my hands, and my courage. That is enough for me to start." Despite the doubts of others, Mira completed the trade. She carried the helicopter to her small workshop, a place filled with old parts, dusty tools, and scattered notes. She placed it on the ground and circled it carefully, studying every detail. Its engines were rusted, its wiring was damaged, and many parts were missing. But to Mira, it was a blank canvas. She began by cleaning the helicopter. Days passed as she scraped rust, replaced broken panels, and tightened loose bolts. She worked from dawn to dusk, refusing to rest until every detail was perfect. People continued to gossip outside her workshop. "She will fail," they said. She traded her life away for junk. But Mira did not listen. During the nights, Mira studied old manuals she had collected over the years. She learned about engines, electricity, and the principles of flight. She experimented with energy sources she found in abandoned stations nearby. She discovered ways to convert sunlight and wind into power for machines. Each small success gave her hope. Each failure taught her something new. One evening, Mira paused to look at the sky. The twin moons of Luma hung above the mountains, casting soft light over the colony. She thought about the helicopter and what it could become. Not just a machine, she realized, but a symbol. A symbol that humans could achieve more than mere survival. That even on a harsh planet, ingenuity and courage could change the future. Weeks passed. Mira scavenged parts from old, broken machines, repaired energy cells, and rewired circuits. She worked tirelessly, sometimes forgetting to eat or sleep. The colony began to notice small changes. Sparks flew from her workshop as she tested her designs. Strange humming noises echoed late at night. Some villagers came closer to see what she was doing, curiosity mixing with fear. One morning, Mira called Lena to her workshop. "Look at this," she said. She had attached a new energy core to the helicopter. The machine's frame glowed faintly as it hummed with life. Mira pressed a button, and the rotors spun slowly for the first time in decades. Lena gasped. It works. Mira smiled. This is only the beginning. I will make it fly higher, faster, and farther than anyone here has ever imagined. The colony watched from a distance as Mira continued her work. Some people began to help her, bringing scraps or offering advice. Others remained skeptical. Myra did not mind. She knew that to create something extraordinary, she had to take risks. She had traded everything for this moment, and she would not turn back. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Myra learned more about the helicopter's structure, testing every part, making it stronger. She reinforced the metal, upgraded the engines, and added control systems she had designed herself. Slowly, the helicopter stopped being a rusty old machine. It became a symbol of hope. During this time, Mira also taught herself patience. She realized that innovation was not just about speed, but about careful observation, planning, and problem-solving. Each small victory, whether a rotor that spun without shaking or a circuit that held power longer, became a building block for the future. Mira's neighbors began to see her differently. They were no longer just the girl who traded everything for a useless machine. She became a source of inspiration. Children watched her with wide eyes, imagining what they could build if they dared to dream. Adults whispered about her courage. Mira never boasted. She simply worked. She knew that the helicopter's first flight was not the end. It was the start of something much greater. One night, Myra stood outside her workshop looking at the stars. She thought about the journeys humans had taken on other planets, the machines that allowed them to explore, and the discoveries that changed civilizations. She realized that her journey was similar. The helicopter was more than a machine. It was a bridge between the life they knew and the life they could create. With a deep breath, Mira returned to her workshop. She had repaired engines, strengthened rotors, and tested energy systems. The helicopter hummed with potential. Mira smiled. The world might not understand her choices yet, but she knew that the impossible could become reality if one dared to try. From that day forward, Mira worked with renewed energy. Every bolt she tightened, every wire she connected, brought her closer to a dream that no one else in the colony could see. And though the path ahead was uncertain, Mira had already proven something important. Courage, vision, and determination could transform even the most discarded object into a tool that could change the future. The rusty helicopter, once ignored and forgotten, now stood at the center of Mira's life. It was the beginning of a journey that would shock the entire colony and redefine what humans could achieve on Luma. Mira knew the work ahead would be difficult. There would be failures, doubts, and challenges. But she also knew one truth: she had already risked everything. And that risk had the power to create miracles. And so, Mira began the next chapter of her life, filled with hope, determination, and a vision that reached far beyond the mountains of Luma. The helicopter was not just a machine. It was the promise of a future where humans could rise above limits, conquer challenges, and build a world greater than anyone had imagined. Mira's workshop was filled with the quiet hum of machines and the soft glow of energy cores she had designed herself. The helicopter, once a rusty heap, now sat on reinforced legs, its frame polished and sturdy. She spent every day studying its structure, imagining how it could move not just across the colony, but into the skies above the planet. Every part she touched had a purpose. Every modification she made brought her closer to her dream. Despite her progress, Mira faced countless challenges. The helicopter's engines were not designed to survive the harsh weather of Luma. The energy cores she built could store power, but transferring it to the rotors without overheating was difficult. Some nights, she sat on the workshop floor, staring at the machine, wondering if her efforts were in vain. But she refused to give up. Myra reminded herself that innovation was never easy, and the greatest achievements came to those who were willing to try when others would quit. She experimented with different power sources. The old engines required a special type of fuel that was nearly impossible to find. Mira decided to use solar energy instead. She created panels that captured sunlight and converted it into electrical energy. Then, she designed a secondary system to store energy harvested from wind. The twin systems worked together, giving the helicopter a power supply that was both strong and sustainable. One morning, Mira was adjusting the rotor alignment when her friend Lena entered the workshop. "Mira, I don't understand how you do it," Lena said. "You take broken machines, old parts, and scrap, and somehow make them work. It feels like magic." Mira smiled. "It's not magic. It's understanding, observation, and persistence. I study how things move, how they work, and I imagine a better version. That is all." Lena shook her head. "You are brave, Mira. Most people would never risk everything for a dream like this." Mira nodded. "Bravery is nothing without action. A dream is only valuable if you work for it." As the days passed, Myra began to see more potential in the helicopter than she had first imagined. Its frame was strong enough to carry more than just one person. Its energy systems could support additional machinery, sensors, and navigation tools. Mira started sketching designs for modifications that could make the helicopter a multi-purpose vehicle. It could carry supplies, explore dangerous terrain, and even help the colony survive during storms. Myra also realized that the helicopter could teach her about teamwork. She invited a few trusted friends to help her, including Lena and a mechanic named Rano. Together, they worked on testing parts, improving designs, and troubleshooting failures. Myra's leadership inspired them. Each time a rotor spun without shaking, each time an energy core held power longer than expected. The team celebrated small victories not everyone supported. Myra, some villagers still whispered that she was wasting time and resources. They doubted her vision and warned that she would fail, but Mira ignored their words. She had learned that progress often comes with criticism and that true innovation required courage to face doubt. One afternoon, Mira discovered a serious flaw. The helicopter's rotors were strong, but the control system could not handle sudden changes in wind. If she tried to fly it in the open, it could crash. Mira spent hours studying old flight manuals, analyzing the mechanics of lift, balance, and stability. She realized she needed a stabilizing system, a combination of sensors and mechanical adjustments that would allow the helicopter to stay steady even in strong gusts. She worked day and night, building prototypes, testing each design with small rotors, and adjusting the settings. Sometimes the prototypes failed spectacularly, breaking into pieces that littered the workshop floor. Myra did not despair. Each failure taught her something new. She recorded every observation, refined her calculations, and tried again. Slowly, the stabilizing system took shape. It was not perfect, but it worked better than she had imagined. During this time, Mira also started thinking about navigation. The helicopter needed a way to know where it was going without crashing into mountains or structures. She built a basic guidance system, using sensors to detect obstacles and create maps of the terrain. She imagined a future where humans could explore not only Luma, but other planets as well, using machines like hers to reach places no one had ever been. The colony began to notice the changes. People came closer to the workshop, curious about what Mira was building. Some brought old machines and parts to help her. Others watched quietly, still skeptical, but fascinated by her determination. Mira welcomed anyone willing to learn. She explained her designs, taught them about energy systems and flight principles, and encouraged them to think creatively. Slowly, she was not just building a machine. She was building a community of thinkers and inventors. One evening, as Myra adjusted the rotors, Lena asked, "Myra, do you ever fear that this will fail? That the helicopter will never fly?" Mira paused and looked at the glowing machine. "Of course I fear it," she admitted. "Fear is natural, but fear is not a reason to stop. It is a reason to be careful, to prepare, and to work harder. If I let fear control me, I will never create anything worth achieving." The night passed, and Mira returned to her experiments. She tested the energy systems, observed how the rotors reacted to weight, and adjusted the stabilizing mechanisms. Every small improvement made her confident that flight was possible. She imagined the helicopter lifting off the ground, carrying supplies to distant parts of the colony, exploring unknown regions, and showing everyone what humans could accomplish. Mira also reflected on her own journey. She realized that the helicopter had taught her more than just engineering. It had taught her patience, observation, and the value of persistence. She understood that true progress often came from taking small, careful steps, learning from failures, and never losing sight of the bigger goal. Weeks turned into months. Mira's workshop became a hub of activity. Friends and neighbors watched as the helicopter evolved piece by piece from a rusty heap into a sophisticated machine. The colony began to see her differently. Children asked questions, eager to learn. Adults expressed admiration, even if they still doubted the final outcome. Mira welcomed all attention, using it to inspire others to think creatively and take small steps toward improvement. One morning, Mira noticed that the helicopter's systems were holding energy longer than ever before. The rotors spun without shaking. The sensors detected obstacles accurately. The stabilizing system responded immediately to changes in wind. Mira felt a surge of excitement. This was the moment when her imagination and hard work began to merge into reality. She gathered Lena, Rano, and a few others who had helped her. "The helicopter is ready for its first test," she announced. Their eyes widened with both excitement and fear. Flying a machine that had once been considered junk was dangerous, but Mira had prepared for every possible problem. She had tested each system, calculated risks, and ensured safety measures were in place. The team moved the helicopter to an open field outside the settlement. Mira checked every part once more. She strapped herself into the pilot's seat, her hands steady on the controls. Her friends watched, tense and silent, as she activated the energy systems. The rotors began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. The machine lifted a few inches off the ground and hovered steadily. Mira adjusted the controls, and it responded perfectly, moving forward, backward, and sideways with ease. A cheer erupted from the team. Mira laughed, a sound full of joy and relief. She had not only repaired a broken machine, but had transformed it into something extraordinary. The helicopter could now carry humans, explore difficult terrain, and serve the colony in ways no one had imagined. Mira realized that her vision had started to take shape. The impossible had become possible through courage, persistence, and creativity. That night, Mira stood outside the workshop, looking at the helicopter resting under the stars. The machine no longer seemed like a collection of metal and wires. It was alive with potential. Mira knew that this was only the beginning. There were still improvements to make, longer flights to test, and more innovations to design. But she also understood that she had crossed an important threshold. The colony began to believe in her vision. People who had doubted her came to see the machine, amazed by what she had achieved. Mira realized that her work was not just about creating a flying machine. It was about showing humanity that determination, creativity, and courage could overcome even the most difficult challenges. As Mira prepared for the next phase of her project, she felt a sense of pride and responsibility. She had turned a rusty, forgotten helicopter into a symbol of hope and potential. She had shown that even discarded objects could become powerful tools when combined with imagination and hard work. Mira knew that the future held greater challenges, but she also knew that she and her community were ready to face them together. The helicopter rested quietly under the twin moons of Luma, glowing softly with the energy Mira had engineered. It was a promise of new possibilities, a bridge to a future where humans could rise above limits and achieve greatness. Mira smiled, ready to continue her journey. She had discovered the unseen potential not only in a machine, but also within herself and her community. The morning sky over Luma was painted in soft shades of orange and pink, and the twin moons hung faintly above the horizon. Mira stood at the edge of the open testing field, her heart pounding with anticipation. The helicopter, polished and reinforced, rested on its landing pads. Its rotors were still, but the faint hum of stored energy vibrated beneath the surface. Today, everything she had worked for would be tested. Her friends, Lena and Rano, were beside her. eyes wide with excitement and concern. A small crowd of villagers had gathered at a safe distance. Drawn by curiosity and the promise of witnessing something extraordinary, Mira felt their eyes on her, but she focused only on the helicopter. She had prepared for months. Every bolt was tightened, every circuit tested, every energy source optimized. She had calculated for balance, power, and stability. There was no room for doubt. Mira climbed into the pilot seat. She strapped herself in, her hands brushing over the controls she had designed, and calibrated herself. "Ready?" Lena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ready," Mira replied, gripping the main control lever. She activated the energy systems. The helicopter's frame began to hum softly as power coursed through its circuits. The rotors started turning slowly, cutting through the morning air. Mira adjusted the throttle, and the machine lifted slightly off the ground. The crowd gasped. For a moment, the helicopter hovered perfectly, as if it had been built to fly all along. Mira guided it forward. The machine moved smoothly, rising higher with each adjustment. She tested every function she had built: stabilization, obstacle detection, and energy efficiency. The helicopter responded instantly, moving in every direction she commanded. Mira felt a thrill of joy. Every calculation, every sleepless night, every scrap she had salvaged had led to this moment. The villagers watched in awe. They had expected failure, a crash, or at least a faltering machine. But the helicopter moved gracefully, cutting through the air with precision. Mira maneuvered it closer to the field's edge, showing off its agility. The rotors whirred with steady power, and the machine carried her weight easily. She could see astonishment on the faces of her neighbors. Some children clapped and laughed, others stared with wide eyes. Even the most skeptical adults whispered among themselves, unable to deny what they were witnessing. Mira decided to test the helicopter's limits. She increased the altitude slightly, guiding it over the rocky terrain surrounding the colony. The machine lifted effortlessly, and she marveled at how stable it remained even in gusts of wind. She activated the navigation sensors, which scanned the land below and created a map in real time. This was more than a simple helicopter. It was a flying laboratory, capable of exploring areas humans could never reach on foot. Lena called out, "Be careful, Mira." "I am," Mira replied, her focus unwavering. She felt a deep connection with the machine, as if it were an extension of herself. Every adjustment, every turn, every rise and fall in altitude was guided by instinct and careful calculation. The helicopter was alive in a way, responding perfectly to her commands. Mira decided it was time for a daring move. She guided the helicopter toward a narrow canyon nearby, a place no one had dared to enter because of unstable winds and jagged rocks. The crowd gasped as they watched her pilot skillfully, weaving through the cliffs without touching a single stone. She felt a surge of exhilaration. This was proof that her vision could go beyond mere survival. Humans could explore, learn, thrive, even in the most dangerous landscapes. Hours passed as Mira tested the helicopter's capabilities. She flew over distant hills, glided above rivers of flowing lava, and navigated treacherous cliffs. Each successful maneuver reinforced her belief that the machine could serve not only the colony, but potentially other settlements across the planet. She imagined the possibilities, carrying supplies to isolated villages, mapping dangerous regions, and discovering resources hidden in the most inaccessible areas. By midday, Mira brought the helicopter back toward the settlement. She landed it smoothly, the rotors slowing to a gentle stop. The crowd erupted in cheers. Children ran forward, wanting to touch the machine. Adults approached cautiously, their eyes full of admiration and respect. Mira climbed out, her body tired, but her spirit soaring. She had done it. She had turned a rusty, discarded helicopter into a functional, powerful flying machine. Rano shook his head in disbelief. "I never thought it could fly like that," he admitted. "It's incredible. You've done the impossible, Mira." Mira smiled, wiping sweat from her brow. "It is not impossible," she said. "It just takes vision, determination, and a willingness to work when others would give up." The excitement in the colony did not fade. Myra's helicopter became a symbol of hope and possibility. People who had once doubted her now approached her for guidance, eager to learn and contribute. Mira encouraged them, showing how the machine worked, explaining energy systems, and teaching basic flight principles. Slowly, the colony began to transform. What had started as a dream in one person's mind now inspired an entire community to think creatively and explore new possibilities. Mira also realized that the first flight was only the beginning. There were improvements to make, tests to run, and new features to add. She envisioned the helicopter carrying multiple passengers, transporting heavy cargo, and even venturing beyond the boundaries of the colony. She began sketching designs for modular attachments, improved energy cores, and enhanced navigation systems. Over the following days, Mira continued her work. She tested the helicopter's endurance, flying longer distances and carrying small weights to simulate cargo. Each flight revealed new opportunities for improvement. She strengthened the rotors, adjusted the energy transfer systems, and refined the navigation sensors. With each modification, the helicopter became more capable, more efficient, and more reliable. The villagers began to see the practical benefits as well. Mira used the helicopter to deliver supplies to areas that were difficult to reach on foot. She helped repair damaged structures in remote parts of the settlement. She even guided lost explorers back to safety. Slowly, the helicopter became a vital tool, not just an invention for demonstration. Mira's vision of a better future was taking shape, and the colony was becoming stronger and more resilient. One evening, Mira gathered her team to discuss the next phase of development. "We have proven that flight is possible," she said. "Now we must think about what comes next. This machine can do more than just move people. It can help us explore, gather resources, and expand our knowledge. We have to plan carefully and continue improving." Lena nodded. "You have shown us what humans can do when we dare to try. The possibilities are endless." Mira smiled. "Endless, yes, but only if we keep working, keep learning, and keep dreaming. The first flight is a beginning, not an end." As the team worked late into the night, Mira reflected on the journey so far. She had started with a rusty, forgotten helicopter. She had faced doubt, fear, and countless failures. But through persistence, creativity, and courage, she had created something remarkable. The machine was not just a tool. It was a testament to human potential, a reminder that even the most unlikely ideas could lead to extraordinary achievements. The next morning, Mira took the helicopter on another flight, this time exploring the distant mountains beyond the colony. She tested its sensors against high winds, navigated through narrow valleys, and even recorded data about the terrain that could help the settlement survive in harsh conditions. Every flight revealed new potential, new ideas, and new opportunities for the future. By the end of the week, Mira's helicopter had become a legend within the colony. Children drew pictures of it, adults spoke of it with admiration, and even those who had once mocked her began to see the value of vision and determination. Mira knew that the first flight was only the start. She had opened a door to a future where humans could rise above limits, explore unknown lands, and achieve greatness together. Standing on the highest hill near the colony, Mira watched the helicopter hover gracefully against the backdrop of the orange sky. She felt pride, not just in the machine, but in what it represented. This was proof that courage, imagination, and hard work could turn the impossible into reality. Mira knew that greater challenges lay ahead, but she was ready. She had shown the colony what humans were capable of, and now it was time to push even further. The first flight had shocked everyone, but it was only the beginning. Mira's journey was far from over. The helicopter had unlocked possibilities that no one had imagined, and she was determined to explore every one of them. The skies of Luma were no longer limits. They were a canvas for human ingenuity, courage, and hope. And as the sun set behind the mountains, the helicopter glided smoothly across the sky, carrying with it the promise of a future that Mira and her colony could create together. The first flight of the helicopter had changed everything. The colony of Luma now looked at Mira differently. No longer was she just the girl who traded everything for a rusty machine. She was a visionary, someone who had turned imagination and determination into reality. Mira knew that her journey was far from over. The first flight had proven the potential of a single helicopter, but she dreamed bigger. She wanted to create a fleet of machines that could help every person in the colony and transform life on Luma forever. Mira gathered Lena, Renault, and the few others who had supported her. "We have proven that flight is possible," she said, her eyes shining. "Now it is time to build more. One helicopter can help us, but many can change the future of our colony." The team agreed, full of excitement and determination. Mira started planning designs for additional helicopters, each slightly different. Optimized for carrying cargo, surveying land, or exploring dangerous areas. She emphasized teamwork. Every person would contribute ideas, labor, and creativity. Mira believed that innovation was not a solo journey. True progress required collaboration. The first task was to gather materials. Mira organized small expeditions to abandoned stations, old scrapyards, and distant hills. They scavenged metal panels, energy cells, rotor blades, and circuits. Every part was carefully selected, repaired, and tested before being incorporated into the new machines. The team worked tirelessly, sometimes returning at night with cuts and bruises from climbing rocky terrain. But their spirits remained high. Back in the workshop, Mira oversaw every step of construction. She instructed the team on assembly techniques, energy management, and balance adjustments. Lena helped with wiring systems while Rano tested engines and energy cores. Each helicopter started as a collection of mismatched parts, but under Mira's guidance, they became strong, stable, and capable flying machines. During this time, Mira also encouraged innovation. She asked team members to suggest improvements, and together they tested new energy storage methods, rotor designs, and stabilizing systems. Some ideas failed, producing sparks and smoke, but Mira treated failures as lessons. Every mistake brought them closer to perfection. Months passed, and the first few additional helicopters were ready for testing. Mira led the initial flights personally. The machines lifted smoothly, responded to controls, and navigated challenging terrain. Lena and Rano soon joined her, flying side by side in formation. Watching multiple helicopters moving together for the first time was exhilarating. The fleet moved like a flock of birds, synchronized, powerful, and graceful. The colony began to notice the difference. Villagers saw helicopters delivering supplies to remote areas, transporting tools and food, and assisting in construction projects. Mira's vision was transforming Luma. Tasks that once took days could now be done in hours. Dangerous areas that were previously inaccessible could now be explored safely. The helicopters brought efficiency, safety, and a sense of hope to the people. Children watched in awe, running alongside the machines and imagining themselves as pilots or engineers. Adults who had once doubted Mira now asked for guidance, eager to learn and participate. The colony was changing. It's inspired by the vision of one determined girl who had dared to dream. Mira realized that her fleet could do even more. She designed modular attachments for each helicopter. Some machines could carry extra cargo, while others were equipped with sensors for mapping terrain or detecting valuable minerals. She introduced small automated tools that could repair damaged structures while the helicopters flew nearby. The possibilities seemed endless. To make the fleet truly useful, Mira began training a group of volunteers. She taught them the principles of flight, the mechanics of energy systems, and the art of navigation. She emphasized creativity and problem solving, encouraging each person to think beyond existing limits. Slowly, the colony developed a new culture, one that valued innovation, teamwork, and the belief that humans could achieve more than survival. One day, Mira took the fleet on a demonstration flight over the colony. The helicopters moved in formation, carrying supplies and performing coordinated maneuvers. The villagers watched with awe, some cheering, others clapping, and many shaking their heads in disbelief. Mira felt a surge of pride. Her dream had become more than a machine, it had become a movement. Yet Mira also faced challenges. Maintaining multiple helicopters required constant attention. Energy cores needed frequent testing, engines required fine-tuning, and rotors had to be reinforced against wear and tear. Weather conditions were unpredictable, and some flights ended with minor accidents. Mira handled each setback with patience, guiding her team to learn from mistakes and improve designs. She knew that true progress was built on persistence and resilience. Myra also started thinking about long-term goals. The helicopters were more than tools. They were a bridge to exploration and discovery. She envisioned missions to map the entire planet, locate hidden resources, and expand the colony beyond its current boundaries. She planned training programs so that more people could pilot the machines safely and effectively. Her vision extended beyond mere survival. She imagined a thriving community capable of building, exploring, and achieving greatness. The fleet also inspired collaboration. Nearby settlements began to take notice. Traders and explorers approached Mira, asking for advice on building similar machines. Mira welcomed them, sharing knowledge, techniques, and designs. She encouraged cooperation between colonies, believing that humanity could achieve far more when people worked together. As the fleet grew, Mira realized that the helicopters had become symbols of hope. They were not just machines. They were proof that determination, courage, and creativity could transform lives. The rusty helicopter that had started it all now represented the spirit of human ingenuity, showing that even discarded, forgotten objects could be turned into tools that changed the world. One afternoon, Mira and Lena took the helicopters to a distant plateau. The landscape was rugged, with jagged cliffs and deep valleys. Mira wanted to test the fleet's ability to handle challenging terrain. As they flew, the helicopters navigated narrow passes, lifted heavy cargo over steep slopes, and carried injured animals back to the colony. The team realized that their machines were not just flying tools, they were lifesavers. The return flight brought more surprises. Myra's fleet discovered a hidden valley rich in minerals and water sources. This discovery could ensure the colony's survival for years and open opportunities for expansion. Mira felt a sense of accomplishment. Her helicopters had not only improved daily life, but it also unlocked new possibilities for the colony's future. When they landed, the villagers gathered around, cheering and asking questions. Mira smiled, explaining how careful observation, teamwork, and creativity had led to this discovery. She encouraged the children to dream, the adults to innovate, and the entire colony to believe in the power of human ingenuity. Mira continued to expand the fleet, training more pilots, improving machines, and exploring new territories. Each helicopter had a purpose, each mission a goal. The colony grew stronger, safer, and more capable with every flight. Mira realized that she had created more than machines. She had created a culture of progress, hope, and innovation. In quiet moments, Mira reflected on how far she had come. She had started with nothing but a rusty helicopter and a vision. Now, she commanded a fleet, led a team of skilled pilots and engineers, and inspired an entire colony. She knew that challenges would continue, but she also knew that humans could overcome anything with determination, creativity, and courage. The sun set behind the mountains of Luma, casting a golden glow over the fleet. The helicopters hovered in formation, their lights reflecting off the rocky terrain. Mira stood among her team, proud but focused. The journey was far from over, and the skies above Luma were just the beginning. She imagined new machines, new explorations, new possibilities for humanity. For Mira, the rusty helicopter had been a risk worth taking. It had started as a discarded object, a dream in one person's mind, and had grown into a symbol of progress for an entire colony. Myra knew that the future held even greater challenges and discoveries. With her fleet, her team, and her vision, there was nothing they could not achieve. As night fell, the helicopters returned to their landing pads, resting but ready for the next day. Mira looked up at the stars, imagining missions that could take her fleet to distant mountains, across deserts, and perhaps even beyond the planet. She smiled, knowing that human potential was limitless. The fleet was proof that courage, determination, and imagination could transform the impossible into reality. Myra stood at the edge of the colony, watching her fleet of helicopters hover gracefully above the settlement. The machines moved in perfect harmony, each one carrying supplies, tools, or passengers to distant parts of Luma. What had started as a single rusty helicopter was now a powerful symbol of human ingenuity, determination, and hope. Mira felt a deep sense of pride. But she also knew this was only the beginning. The colony had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Villagers who had once doubted her now actively contributed to her projects. Children built small models inspired by her designs. Adults worked together to repair machines, gather resources, and improve energy systems. Mira had not only created machines, but had sparked a culture of curiosity, innovation, and collaboration. Humans were no longer just surviving on Loom. They were thriving. Mira's mind was always moving forward. She envisioned a network of helicopters that could connect distant colonies, transport valuable resources, and explore uncharted territories. With every flight, she collected data about the planet's mountains, valleys, rivers, and deserts. She mapped hidden caves, located water sources, and identified areas rich in minerals. Each discovery added to the colony's knowledge and security. One day, Mira gathered her team. Lena, Rano, and the others, who had been with her since the first helicopter, looked at her with eager eyes. "We have done so much already," Mira said, "but there is still more to achieve. We have the chance to transform not only Luma, but every colony on this planet. Our machines can connect people, carry supplies, and explore dangerous areas that no one else can reach." The team nodded, full of excitement and determination. They began working on new designs, creating helicopters with longer flight ranges, stronger frames, and advanced sensors. Mira taught them to think creatively, to test every idea, and to learn from failures. Each new machine added to the fleet was better than the last, capable of handling challenges the earlier helicopters could not. The colony watched in awe as Mira's fleet expanded. Helicopters transported crops from the fields to storage areas in record time. They carried construction materials to repair damaged homes and buildings. They rescued injured villagers from treacherous terrain and even helped animals stranded in dangerous areas. The machines had become an integral part of life on Luma, transforming the colony into a thriving, efficient, and hopeful community. Mira also realized that her work had inspired others beyond Luma. Nearby settlements sent messengers, curious about the helicopters and eager to learn. Mira welcomed them, teaching her designs, explaining energy systems, and encouraging collaboration. She believed that humanity could achieve far more when knowledge was shared. Her vision was not just for one colony, but for the entire planet. As the fleet continued to operate, Mira began experimenting with advanced technology. She designed automated systems that could assist pilots, improve navigation, and maintain energy efficiency. She introduced modular attachments for specialized missions, such as surveying dangerous cliffs, carrying heavy loads, or mapping unexplored regions. The helicopters were no longer simple flying machines. They were versatile, intelligent, and indispensable tools. One morning, Mira and her team set out on a special mission. They wanted to explore the farthest edge of the colony's territory, a region of jagged mountains and deep valleys that no one had dared to enter before. The fleet moved in formation, guided by Myra's steady hands and precise calculations. The helicopters soared over cliffs, glided through narrow passes, and hovered above rushing rivers. The team collected valuable data, discovered hidden caves, and even found a small freshwater spring that could support future expansion. The discoveries amazed the colony. News spread quickly, and soon neighboring settlements requested guidance. Myra organized teams to help them build similar machines, share techniques, and train pilots. She believed that the true measure of her work was not the machines themselves, but the knowledge, inspiration, and possibilities they created for humanity. Back in Luma, Mira's influence continued to grow. Children played with small models of helicopters, dreaming of the day they could pilot real machines. Adults contributed to projects, learning new skills and sharing ideas. The colony had transformed from a struggling settlement into a center of innovation and collaboration. Mira had shown everyone that courage, determination, and creativity could overcome even the harshest challenges. Mira's personal journey also evolved. She had grown from a young dreamer into a skilled engineer, a leader, and a mentor. She reflected on the day she traded everything for a rusty helicopter. At the time, people had thought she was foolish. Now, that decision had sparked a movement, built a fleet, and inspired an entire community. Mira understood that risk was an essential part of progress. Without courage to take the first step, none of this would have been possible. The helicopters themselves had become legendary. They were fast, strong, and capable of flying in extreme weather. They could carry supplies, rescue the injured, map new territories, and transport people safely across dangerous terrain. Each machine was a testament to human ingenuity, showing that even discarded objects could be transformed into tools of progress. One evening, Mira stood on the highest hill, overlooking the colony. The sun was setting, casting golden light over the mountains and valleys. The fleet hovered silently, a symbol of achievement and hope. Mira felt a sense of peace, knowing that her work had made a lasting impact. The colony was safer, stronger, and more capable than ever before. Human potential had been proven once again. Lena joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Mira, look at what you've done. You've changed everything for everyone here." Mira smiled. "We've changed everything together. It's not just my work, it's the work of everyone who believed, learned, and dared to try." The next day, Mira led the fleet on another exploration mission. They ventured further than ever before, mapping uncharted regions and locating resources that could sustain the colony for generations. The helicopters carried equipment for scientific experiments, collected samples, and even assisted in building small shelters in remote areas. The machines had become more than tools. They were partners in building the future. The villagers celebrated each successful mission. Inspired by the possibilities the helicopters had unlocked, children dreamed of becoming engineers and pilots. Adults shared ideas, repaired machines, and trained new volunteers. Mira had not only built machines but had also created a culture of innovation, courage, and collaboration. As the weeks turned into months, Mira's influence expanded. Neighboring colonies implemented similar fleets, guided by her designs and teachings. Human settlements across the planet began to work together, sharing knowledge and technology. The vision Mira had started with a single rusty helicopter had grown into a movement. Humans were no longer limited by fear, scarcity, or isolation. They were explorers, builders, and creators. Mira took pride in the legacy she was building. She had shown that even one person with courage and vision could transform the world. She had taught others to think creatively, take risks, and learn from mistakes. The helicopters were more than machines. They were a symbol of human potential and a reminder that determination and imagination could overcome any obstacle. One evening, as Mira watched the fleet return to the colony, she reflected on the journey. She had traded everything she owned for a rusty helicopter. She had faced doubt, failure, and fear, but she had persevered, creating a fleet, inspiring a colony, and unlocking the potential of humans on Luma. The journey had been difficult, but the rewards were extraordinary. Mira knew that challenges would continue. The planet was harsh, unpredictable, and full of unknown dangers. But she also knew that humans were capable of overcoming them, with courage, creativity, and collaboration. There was no limit to what they could achieve. The helicopters rested for the night, their lights glowing softly under the twin moons. Mira stood among her team, proud of what they had accomplished. She had built machines, taught skills, inspired hope, and created a culture of innovation. Her legacy was not just the helicopters, it was the belief in human potential. Mira looked up at the stars and imagined a future where humans would explore beyond Luma, discover new planets, and build civilizations across the galaxy. She smiled, knowing that it all began with a single rusty helicopter and a dream. That dream had grown into a reality that no one could have predicted. Humans had proven once again that, with courage, determination, and imagination, they could achieve the impossible. The colony slept peacefully that night, safe, inspired, and full of hope. Mira walked back to her workshop, looking forward to the next day, the next flight, and the next discovery. The future was bright, the possibilities endless, and the legacy of one determined girl had reshaped the destiny of an entire community. Mira had traded everything she had for a rusty helicopter. But what she had built next had changed everything for herself, her colony, and the future of humanity on Luma. The helicopter that had once been abandoned now symbolized hope, courage, and the limitless potential of humans. Mira knew that the story of her invention would inspire generations to come, proving that even the smallest risk, when combined with vision and effort, could create miracles.